Lost at sea. The man who vanished for 14 months. In November 2012, Salvador Alvarenga went fishing off the coast of Mexico. 2 days later, a storm hit, and he made a desperate SOS. It was the last anyone heard from him for 438 days. This is his story. On November 18, 2012, a day after being ambushed at sea by a massive storm, Alvarenga was trying to ignore the growing pond of seawater sloshing at his feet. An inexperienced navigator might have panicked, started bailing and been distracted from his primary task, aligning the boat with the waves. He was a veteran captain and knew that he needed to regain the initiative. Together with his inexperienced crewmate, Ezequiel Cordoba, he was 50 miles out at sea, slowly negotiating a route back to shore. The spray and crashing waves dumped hundreds of gallons of seawater into the boat, threatening to sink or flip them. While Alvarenga steered, Cordoba was frantically tossing water back into the ocean, pausing only momentarily to allow his shoulder muscles to recover. Alvarenga's boat, at 25 feet, was as long as 2 pickup trucks and as wide as one. With no raised structure, no glass and no running lights, it was virtually invisible at sea. On the deck, a fiberglass crate the size of a refrigerator was full of fresh fish, tuna, mahi-mahi and sharks, their catch after a 2-day trip. If they could bring it ashore, they would have enough money to survive for a week. The boat was loaded with equipment, including 70 gallons of gasoline, 16 gallons of water, 23 kilograms of sardines for bait, 700 hooks, miles of line, a harpoon, 3 knives, 3 buckets for bailing, a mobile phone, a GPS tracking device, a 2-way radio, several wrenches for the motor and 91 kilograms of ice. Alvarenga had prepared the boat with Ray Perez, his usual mate and a loyal companion, but at the last minute, Perez couldn't join him. Alvarenga, keen to get out to sea, arranged to go with Cordoba instead, a 22-year-old with the nickname Piñata who lived at the far end of the lagoon, where he was best known as a defensive star on the village soccer team. Alvarenga and Cordoba had never spoken before, much less worked together. Alvarenga tensely negotiated their slow advance toward the coast, maneuvering among the waves like a surfer trying to glide and slice his way through. As the weather worsened, Cordoba's resolve disintegrated. At times he refused to bail and instead held the rail with both hands, vomiting and crying. He had signed up to make $50. He was capable of working 12 hours straight without complaining and was athletic and strong. But this crashing, soaking journey back to shore? He was sure their tiny craft would shatter and sharks would devour them. He began to scream. Alvarenga remained sitting, gripping the tiller tightly, determined to navigate a storm now so strong that harbor masters along the coast had barred fishing boats from heading out to sea. Finally he noticed a change in the visibility. The cloud cover was lifting. He could see miles across the water. Around 9 a.m., Alvarenga spotted the rise of a mountain on the horizon. They were approximately 2 hours from land when the motor started coughing and spluttering. He pulled out his radio and called his boss. Willie! Willie, the motor is ruined. Calm down, man, give me your coordinates. Willie responded, from the beachside docks in Costa Azul. We have no GPS, it's not functioning. Lay an anchor, Willie ordered. We have no anchor, Alvarenga said. He had noticed it was missing before setting off, but didn't think he needed it on a deep-sea mission. Okay, we are coming to get you, Willie responded. Come now, I am really getting fucked out here, Alvarenga shouted. These were his final words to shore. As the waves thumped the boat, Alvarenga and Cordoba began working as a team. With the morning sun, they could see the waves approaching, rising high above them and then splitting open. Each man would brace and lean against the side of the open-hulled boat to counteract the roll. But the waves were unpredictable, slapping each other in midair, joining forces to create swells that raised the men to a brief peak where they could get a third-story view then, with the sensation of a falling elevator, instantly dropped them. Their beach sandals provided no traction on the deck. Alvarenga realized their catch, nearly 500 kilograms of fresh fish, was making the boat top heavy and unstable. With no time to consult his boss, Alvarenga went with his gut. They would dump all the fish. One by one they hauled them out of the cooler, swinging the carcasses into the ocean. Falling overboard was now more dangerous than ever. The bloody fish were sure to attract sharks. Next they tossed the ice and extra gasoline. Alvarenga strung 50 buoys from the boat as a makeshift sea anchor that floated on the surface, providing drag and stability. but at around 10 a.m. the radio died. It was before noon on day 1 of a storm that Alvarenga knew was likely to last 5 days. Losing the GPS had been an inconvenience. The failed motor was a disaster. Now, without radio contact, they were on their own. The storm roiled the men all afternoon as they fought to bail water out of the boat. The same muscles, the same repetitive motion, hour after hour, had allowed them to dump perhaps half the water. They were both ready to faint with exhaustion, but Alvarenga was also furious. He picked up a heavy club normally used to kill fish and began to bash the broken engine. Then he grabbed the radio and GPS unit and angrily threw the machines into the water. The sun sank and the storm churned as Cordoba and Alvarenga succumbed to the cold. They turned the refrigerator-sized icebox upside down and huddled inside. Soaking wet and barely able to clench their cold hands into fists, they hugged and wrapped their legs around each other. But as the incoming water sank the boat ever lower, the men took turns leaving the icebox to bail for frantic 10 or 15-minute stints. Progress was slow, but the pond at their feet gradually grew smaller. Darkness shrank their world, as a gale-force wind ripped offshore and drove the men farther out to sea. Were they now back to where they had been fishing a day earlier? Were they heading north towards Acapulco, or south towards Panama? With only the stars as guides, they had lost their usual means of calculating distance. Without bait or fish hooks, Alvarenga invented a daring strategy to catch fish. He kneeled alongside the edge of the boat, his eyes scanning for sharks, and shoved his arms into the water up to his shoulders. With his chest tightly pressed to the side of the boat, he kept his hands steady, a few inches apart. When a fish swam between his hands, he smashed them shut, digging his fingernails into the rough scales. Many escaped, but soon Alvarenga mastered the tactic, and he began to grab the fish and toss them into the boat while trying to avoid their teeth. With the fishing knife, Cordoba expertly cleaned and sliced the flesh into finger-sized strips that were left to dry in the sun. They ate fish after fish. Alvarenga stuffed raw meat and dried meat into his mouth, hardly noticing or caring about the difference. When they got lucky, they were able to catch turtles and the occasional flying fish that landed inside their boat. This was the part 1. Please check our channel for next part. We hope you like this video. If you so, please like and subscribe our channel. Thank you.